what I am interested in. So let me talk you through eligibility and what we call PICOs. So PICOs is a way of really having an inclusion criteria, and I'll say straight from the outset, this means if you've got a PICOs, you don't have an exclusion criteria. There is no inclusion or exclusion of papers. Paper is either included or it's out. We don't have an exclusion criteria. We only have this, which is PICOs. And PICOs has a really strong rationale because you're trying to formulate a really tight question. So let's go back to an example. So imagine that you are trying to find literature which is on the applied physiology of women's football. Okay, so you're trying to find out about the applied physiology of women's football. So I only want to be reading literature that is relevant to that. So we're trying to find, and we've got a precise question, and we've got to be systematic about this. Otherwise, we end up wasting a lot of time, and we also potentially end up biasing our narrative by including literature that is not relevant. So we're going to use 5 components. Well, we're actually only going to use probably 4 of these for this. We're actually going to do a PICO rather than a PICOs. We tend not to use study design unless they are more clinical based studies. So each letter refers to a key thing. So the P is your population or the patient group. The I is the intervention or what they're exposed to. The C is the comparator. The O is the outcome or the end point. So what we are going to do is we're going to get all our literature that we've screened, and now what we do is we compile our PICO. Now we should do this in advance. This isn't something you do once you've got the literature. Really, you need to know this in advance because in essence, to a certain degree, this might help you with the search strategy. So let me show you one in operation. So this is an example. So this is from the blood donation study that I've referred to in previous videos. So we're interested in blood donation and its effect on VO2 max. So we wanted to be very clear about who this was with. So we had a population. So we were only interested in healthy, pathology-free individuals, males and females, 17 to 66 years, because that was the maximum year for blood donation in the UK. And they probably had to have evidence of doing cardiovascular exercise. So if we go back to an analogy in terms of, say, female footballers, well, we know that the population are female footballers. But can we be more specific? Are we interested in a particular level? Are we interested only in elite or recreational? Are we interested in this in relation to a particular specific position? Are we interested only in forwards or defenders or goalkeepers? You would specify that in your population box. Then you've got the intervention. So in this case, it was they had to be donating 470 mils of blood, or equivalent up to 500 mils, because the US does it slightly differently. If we then think about applied physiology of female football, well, the intervention is what? Well, the intervention has to be the game of football. But can we be more specific? Is it 11 aside? Is it 5 aside or 7 aside? Is it competitive, or can we have non-competitive games? You can be really as specific or as non-specific as you want in that box. My advice would be reasonably specific. So don't just say, well, it's just playing a game of football, because you're going to end up reading papers that are not relevant. You know, if you want 11 aside, just suddenly get 5 aside. The comparator is in essence, what are you comparing between? Now this one is slightly harder to use for this kind of review, but it might be that you want to compare first half to second half. You're looking at the physiological demands first half to second half, or it might be that you want to compare in rugby forwards versus backs, or it might be that you're interested in comparing elite to non-elite. So that would be your comparator. And then we come to the outcomes. So the outcomes are the variables of interest for your review. So where do you get these from? Well, the place you get these from is from the Pearl paper. So we're going to briefly now look in another video about what a Pearl paper is.